It's Wednesday, September 1. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Carol Francis. Secondary school students will be able to return to face-to-face classes once the Education Ministry achieves 65% or higher in its COVID-19 vaccination drive. Minister of Education, Youth and Information Favour Williams is also encouraging everyone working within the education sector to take the jab. She made the call during a virtual parent town hall meeting on vaccination on Tuesday.
Just about 38,000 students ages 12 to 18 years have received a dose of the Pfizer vaccine since the start of government's children vaccination blitz over a week ago. The vaccination program is ongoing. Speaking at Tuesday's virtual parents' town hall meeting on vaccination, Education Minister Favour Williams says each school should aim to achieve 65% in vaccination for students 12 years and older.
We see where our students, they are listening to what the Ministry of Health and Wellness is saying. I'm sure they're doing their own research as well. And together with their parents, they're making the decision to come forward, and we want to applaud them for that.
She's also encouraging all persons employed within the education sector to get vaccinated against the coronavirus.
All the persons who work in the education sector, at our schools, whether you are the security guard at the gate who helps to take temperature and give some sanitization, whether you are the groundsman, whether you are the maintenance person, the cook, administrator, in whatever office that you work. We're also imploring those persons who work within the education sector to be vaccinated.
The new school year begins today, September 1, and classes are set to resume on September 6. Minister Williams notes that schools should continue to abide by the protocols set out by the Disaster Risk Management Act as they wrap up the registration process.
We have advised that during this process that our school leaders, our teachers and administrators adhere to the orders in the Disaster Risk Management Act, Order number 9, under which we're living, and only have small groups of students on the school grounds at any one time. And that they should try to process the registration of our students as quickly as possible in order to avoid crowding at the school gate and on the school compound.
Minister Williams says her team will be guided by the Ministry of Health and Wellness as to when face-to-face classes will resume.
While we're waiting, our children will still have access to education via the online mode, via our learning kit, and via the audiovisual platforms that we have, much the same as you're used to in the last year. I know that many of you are parents who are hoping to see your children back in the face-to-face mode, but we're not quite there yet. We still have to wait to see how these COVID numbers play out and what the Ministry of Health and Wellness advises us.
The Education Minister and Director of Family Health Services in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Dr. Melody Ennis, responded to questions regarding extracurricular activities when face-to-face classes resumed.
Given the pandemic that we're in, I would doubt that we are going to be able to have extracurricular activities on our school grounds anytime soon. But, so that would be my assessment, unless Dr. Ennis could give us some better guidance. But that is the assessment that I would have, considering that doing extracurricular activities, if you're doing something physical, generally you have to take off your mask and so on. I cannot imagine that we are going to get to that point anytime soon in our schools.
I concur. We need to get those numbers up before we can consider relaxing measures and allowing persons back into that intimate face-to-face setting.
Dr. Ennis says Jamaicans will see a difference in coronavirus-related cases once more persons are vaccinated. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Simone Absalom Gale.
The Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, is calling on private sector groups and social service organizations to collaborate in establishing a school bus system. The call comes as educational authorities continue to work towards mitigating the spread of COVID-19 and amidst uncertainty about when face-to-face classes will resume. JTA President Winston Smith says while it's impossible to reach all students residing in remote communities, some investment in improved transportation is better than none at all. A temporary facility is reportedly being erected in a section of the parking lot at the Cornwall Regional Hospital. The move comes in response to the surge of coronavirus patients. The structure is reportedly the fourth being built since March of this year. The hospital also has a high dependency unit that houses 4 patients that can deal with critical cases. Now for the latest COVID-19 update from the Health and Wellness Ministry, we join Melvin Pennant.
In the clinical management summary for Tuesday, August 31, 351 new positives were reported. This brings the overall case count to 68,482, with 18,103 being active. In the parish breakdown, Kingston and St. Andrew registered the highest positives with 96, followed by St. Catherine with 52 new cases and St. Thomas with 34. 31 deaths were also reported over the past 24 hours, and that pushes the island's death toll to 1,549. To date, an overall 48,402 persons have been reported as having recovered from the virus. At this time, 712 persons are hospitalized, with 196 patients are considered moderately ill, 94 are severely ill, and 40 are said to be critical. For the news on PBCJ, I am Melvin Pennant.
Agriculture is an important contributor to Jamaica's economic development. Though the average age of Jamaican farmers is no longer 60 years of age, there is concern that many youngsters do not see the sector as a viable economic option. If this does not change, Jamaica could face serious farming shortages. The Ministry of Agriculture is working to make agricultural jobs a desirable career path. One such initiative is the Youth in Agriculture program. Established in 2017, the Youth in Agriculture program provides resources and expertise to youngsters in the agriculture sector. A Youth in Agriculture policy has also been developed. Agriculture Minister Floyd Green has mandated Agro Investment Corporation to reserve land to be leased to those who are part of the Youth in Agriculture initiative. Marlon Samuels has the details.
In 2018, the average age of farmers in Jamaica was 48 years, a tremendous improvement over the reported 60 years in the 1980s. This is due in part to strategies employed by the Jamaica 4-H clubs. Despite this improvement, Jamaica could face a farming problem and, by extension, food security and insecurity issues if more young people are not inspired to enter jobs in the agriculture sector. The Agro-Investment Corporation, more popularly referred to as Agro-Invest, is encouraging young farmers aged 18 to 35 to join the Youth in Agriculture program. The program is designed to assist young people who have a love for agriculture. They are given the expertise in the use of agricultural inputs, such as machinery and irrigated water. They are provided with other technical assistance, business and marketing skills. Participants are also able to lease land at extremely affordable rates. Marketing and Communications Manager at Agro-Invest, Alicia Brown Forbes, says land is available at agro-parks in Ebony Park and Spring Plain in Clarendon, Plain Garden River in St. Thomas, Holland Estates, St. Elizabeth, St. Mary, and Portland. AgriInvest will also help young farmers involved in the program access grant funding. The entity will also put the young farmers in touch with local and overseas markets for their produce. Persons interested in participating in the Youth in Agriculture program can call 876-923-0086. That's 876-923-0086. For the news on PBCJ, I am Marlon Samuels.
Real estate professionals are being reminded to pay their annual licensing fees by September 30 to avoid the expiration of their license. For real estate dealers to legally practice, they are required to pay annual licensing fees either in full by March 30 or in half-year installments by September 30. Payments can be made via the Real Estate Board's client portal using a debit or credit Visa MasterCard. Chief Executive Officer of the Real Estate Board, Sandra Garrick, told JIS News that the public should verify that real estate dealers, developers, and salesmen with whom they intend to do business are licensed by the board. In this edition of the Business Report, why the Old Harbour Tax Office is closed and the latest market data. The Tax Administration Jamaica, TAJ, is advising the public that its Old Harbour Tax Office will be closed on Wednesday, September 1, and for the remainder of the week, September 2 and 3. The tax authority says the decision comes following the confirmation of several positive COVID-19 cases at the location and to facilitate other team members to self-quarantine and take personal precautions. TAJ says it has activated its COVID-19 precautionary protocol to sanitize and deep-clean the office spaces in the best interest of its staff and clients. Taxpayers are advised to visit either the Spanish Town or Maypen tax offices, other locations of choice, or to do business online via TAJ's website at www.jamaicatax.gov.jm. That's www.jamaicatax.gov.jm. In Tuesday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index advanced by 2,182 points to close at over 420,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 95 stocks, of which 44 advanced, 37 declined, and 14 traded firm. The junior market index declined by 29.31 points to close at over 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for 1834 Investments Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and Berita Investments Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Limited, and Cargo Handlers Limited. Trading firm were Blue Power Group Limited, CAC 2000 Limited, and Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited. Future Energy Source Company Limited ordinary shares was the volume leader with over 9.9 million units, followed by Radio Jamaica Limited with over 8.3 million units, and Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 1.8 million units. In foreign exchange trading for Tuesday, August 31, the US dollar sold for an average $152.09. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $120.79. The pound sterling traded for $208.77, and the euro sold for an average $181.42. In market data for oil, prices recovered on Wednesday after a U.S. industry report showed crude inventories fell more than expected last week, steadying after overnight losses from the impact of Hurricane Ida on U.S. refineries. Brent crude futures gained 49 cents or 0.7% to touch $72.12 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures were at $69 a barrel, up 50 cents or 0.7%. On that note, we close this edition of the Business Report. In this week's edition of Living Healthy, Dr. Lawson Myers of Ligonier Family Dental looks at how marijuana affects your teeth.
I'm actually on the Waterfall hiking trail here in Holywell. I love it. This is the same place that they call Maroon Country, the runaway slaves who today have their independent society here. What am I talking about today? Marijuana, the smoke signals. Like everything else, marijuana has good and not so good properties. But I want to speak to you specifically about marijuana and the effects in your mouth. Do you know that there is a relationship, a correlation between the smoking of marijuana and periodontal disease? Periodontium is the supporting tissue, the soft tissue being the gums, and the hard tissue, the bone underneath that hold your teeth in place. So be careful if you're smoking that spliff. Also, the THC, one of the main active ingredients in ganja, tends to interfere with your salivary flow, so you're very prone to having dry mouth. Now, if you have dry mouth, then you don't have that flushing, cleaning action of the saliva, so you're more prone to have tooth decay and bad mouth odor. Listen, do you know that when you smoke marijuana, it opens your appetite and you're very likely to have a lot of sugary snacks? So again, you may be prone to a lot more tooth decay than the average. One more thing that is a little more serious is something that we call a leukoplakia. Fancy name, it just means these pre-cancerous white lesions that may form in your mouth when you smoke tobacco or marijuana. The combination of cigarettes and marijuana makes you even more likely to have pre-cancerous lesions. So if this is something you're going to indulge in, see your dentist regularly. And if it is that you've just smoked some spliff, sometimes it makes your heart race. And if the dentist gives you anesthetic while your heart is racing from the marijuana, it can prolong that tachycardia, that heart racing. So we have to make sure that everybody is well informed as to what's happening with you. So smoke your spliff, but be mindful of the oral manifestations, and as we say in Jamaica, no problem. So I'm back on my trail, my hiking trail, but remember the smoke signals from marijuana or ganja, cannabis, whatever you call it. Listen, I am out of here. Catch you next time. Facebook, YouTube, and our LFD website. See you next time on HD's Jazz.
In regional news, the government of Barbados is moving to enhance its management of the island's health system amidst the new wave of infection driven by the COVID-19 Delta variant. Additional hospital beds, quarantine stations, and vaccination buses are being procured. We have more from Barbados today.
That's according to Health and Wellness Minister, Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic. This latest COVID-19 response will cost over $47 million. Minister Bostic spoke about the plans during the supplementary estimates in Parliament on Tuesday.
We had 2 or 3 schools identified as possible isolation facilities. We've subsequently expanded that number, and we've done the site visits to be able to deal with that. And in fact, at this point in time, we have both Blackman Gov't and the Darrell Jordan secondary schools in operation at this point in time. So that's an example of that. And so we've expanded isolation facilities, including hotel isolation. This obviously requires some additional funding to be able to provide the services that are required, the human resource, the supplies, and so on. We've also had to enhance our capacity to swab persons, take samples, and to test and to return results in a timely manner. And this also required expanding the services and the equipment and personnel. But above all, we had to make sure that we had enough personal protective equipment available and all of the supplies that we require to sustain this fight.
Minister Bostic also spoke about the upgrades taking place at the Harrison Point facility.
We, at this point in time, are not overwhelmed, but we can get there. We can be. That's what is happening elsewhere. We are protecting the country because we've always strived to keep as far as possible the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, which is the lone tertiary hospital in this country, secondary tertiary, unlike larger countries that have multiple hospitals in different states and so on that they can call in resources. We don't have that luxury. And so that is why we spent money to refurbish Harrison Point. And at this point in time, we are doing some additional work at Harrison Point, recognizing the extent of the Delta variant and the kind of symptomatic experience that has been going on in other countries, with a lot of the positive cases being symptomatic. We've taken the decision to transform what is now secondary isolation to be more like primary isolation by now putting in oxygen into that building so that they will have their own oxygen. We're looking to put perhaps oxygen even in tertiary isolation at this point.
Regional authorities have joined forces with the United States Agency for International Development and the United Nations Development Program to enhance the Carisecure Citizen Security Program. The agreement was announced during a conference in Barbados.
Public security and transnational crime fighting in Barbados and other Caribbean states are in line for a major boost under the Carisecure Citizen Security Program. Officials from the United States Agency for International Development and the United Nations Development Program joined forces with the Regional Security System to officially launch the project in Bridgetown. Addressing the opening of a two-day conference on Tuesday, RSS Executive Director Captain Irwinton Sherland said there were a number of factors currently compounding crime-fighting efforts in the region.
COVID-19 and the countermeasures implemented to address this public health threat not only impacted transnational and transregional threat vectors, but also the commission of other localized crime. With the altered conditions of criminality in the region, it is imperative that as a region we identify and respond to the changing national, transnational, regional, and transregional trends. If we are to be honest in our assessment of our criminogenic environments, I'm sure that you would all agree that we've experienced an emergence in non-traditional security threats such as global warming, global health pandemics, and cyber attacks. In addition, it is very possible that these structural shifts in our security environment also interface with other risk and protective factors that further compound the issues of crime and violence.
Over in Guyana, 3 of the largest trade unions have joined forces in a court action against the government over its vaccination policy. The policy blocks workers in the health system who have not been vaccinated against COVID-19 from accessing their workplace.
The court action names the Attorney General Adel Nandlal as the respondent on behalf of the Guyana government. The 3 unions are seeking a number of orders, declarations, and injunctions. Through attorney Darren Wade, the unions want the court to declare that the health emergency measures made by the president of Guyana and published in the official Gazette was made in excess of the president's jurisdiction under Section 21 of the Public Health Ordinance. The presidential declaration was first made under former President David Granger and continues under the current president, Irfan Ali. The applicants contend that although there is a central board of health, the president and the minister of health have not relied on that board for advice and recommendations as is required by the Constitution. The attorney contends that a declaration made by the president amounts to an unconstitutional delegation of the president's powers and infringes on the Constitution. Additionally, attorney Wade contends that there was an improper delegation of powers. He wants the court to declare the emergency measures later issued to be invalid. The unions, through the attorney, want the court to quash the gazetted orders since they contend they were unconstitutional in the first place, pointing out that the Central Board of Health has no authority to delegate its powers to a third party. The attorney wants the court to also grant an interim injunction prohibiting the state of Guyana, its agents, and authorized entities from implementing Section 17 of the COVID-19 emergency measures until the determination of the application to the court. Section 17 refers to the requirement that a person must be vaccinated against COVID-19 to be allowed access to a government ministry or agency, or they should make an appointment. Government ministries and agencies have been using that requirement to get staffers vaccinated. Unvaccinated staffers have been locked out from their jobs at a number of government offices. Citizens who are unvaccinated have also found themselves being denied access to government offices to transact business and government services. The application wants the court to grant an order prohibiting the implementation of the vaccination requirement. Additionally, the court is being asked to order that the state bears the cost of the COVID-19 testing regimen for employees of the state who are required to take the COVID-19 tests as a condition of their employment with the state. The action by the three unions comes as the government continues its push to get more persons vaccinated, and as various government departments and agencies demand that staff members be vaccinated or start producing regular negative COVID-19 test results at their own cost. Attorney Darren Wade.
The Public Health Ordinance gave the president the authority, limited authority rather, whenever there's an emergency to grant limited orders. The president in that order would have delegated those authorities to the Minister of Health. It is our respectful opinion that that delegation by the president is unlawful because it comes into conflict with Article 111 of the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana.
And in sports, the West Indies women are back on the pitch at the Vivian Richards Cricket Stadium. This after rain disrupted their opening 2020 international match against South Africa women, forcing a no result in the contest. West Indies had reached 21 for 1 in the third over of their reply on Tuesday, when inclement weather ended the game abruptly. The Jamaica Tallawers are celebrating a 6-wicket victory over the Barbados Royals in their Caribbean Premier League cricket match in St. Kitts. The win pushes the Tallawers into second place on 4 points, heading into their fixture on Wednesday against leaders St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots. And that's our package. Join us again tomorrow, same time, same place, for more news and sports right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.